continuing our unit for March Madness. So today we have this packet that is all about the different brackets that we're doing. And so it's going to ask you on the front page to complete a chart. And so this is for us to tally up from the beginning to the end, what are kind of the stats? So what percent of the teams are getting eliminated each time? So we know that the first round goes from 64 to 32. So how much percent of the teams are being eliminated for that? What do you think? 50%. And so it's going to change each time. So what we're going to do is go through, fill out the entire box here with, it's going to say write the number of teams eliminated for each one, the number of teams eliminated as a fraction, simplify, what is the percent, and what is the decimal. And so we're going to talk about that really quick. So as we know, there's 3 different ways to represent half of a number, a part of a number. So if we're talking about half of 4, which would be 2, you could write half like this as a fraction, like this as a decimal, or like this as a percent. Okay, so the percent is going to be semi-new, so you are going to have a column on here where you're asked to write the percent of the total teams eliminated. So everyone is going to get a calculator. You can actually have someone to go ahead and start passing this out. You can go ahead and do that on me. But when you get your calculator, I'm going to teach you a little trick for the easiest way to find your percent. So if I have my calculator and I have this fraction that I want to turn to a percent, I will do 1, which is the numerator, divided by the denominator, which is 2, which would give me the decimal of 50, times 100. And then it will come up and it will say 50, and that's what your percent, you're going to know that your percent is. Okay, so I will do another one. So if my fraction was 1/4, and I wanted to figure out the percent, I would do 1 divided by 4 equals 0.25 is what it's going to come up on your calculator. So you all can be looking at that. So everyone open up your calculator and do that right now. 1 divided by 4 and that's going to be 0.25, then times 100. And that should just be the number 25. And so therefore 25 is going to be your percent. It's also, if you just look at the decimal and it come up as 0.25, the way I remember it, if I don't have a calculator, is moving my decimal 2 spots over. So whichever way you want to look at it, that's how I do.
How come you would do like the number of teams, like instead of doing 25 times 64?
Because we will be working, the order of this sheet is going to ask you how many teams are going to be eliminated. So for the first one, when you have 64, half of them, so 32 are going to be eliminated. So that's going to make your fraction 32 over 64, 1/2. And so from 1/2, it's asking you to find the percent. So then you would do 1 divided by 2 to find the percent.
You're supposed to get 50, right?
For 1/2, we were looking at 1/4 that time, that we got 25.
Yeah, like I got 50.
Let me see. U times by 200, so it will be times 100. See that? Okay, so I'm going to pass these packets out, and I want you to go ahead and start working on them at a level 1. If you have questions, raise your hand. I will come by and help you, and then we'll go over them together. On the next sheet, if you finish your chart, on this back side, this is just like scratch paper for each section of the chart. Then it's going to ask you a few questions, like do you see a pattern about teams eliminated? If there was another round, how many teams would start? Do you see the pattern of teams that would start the tournament? So there's a few questions for you to evaluate your chart, so you can go ahead and start looking at those too. So, Eric, did you have a question? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, could you just basically like if you had 1/2, just go ahead and put 50, like 1/4
Yeah.
is 25.
And so for some of them, that you are going to be able to clearly see what the percent would be, but once you get to the lower numbers, it's not going to be as evident. But you'll see that when you start doing the math. Thank you all so much for staying at a level 1.
So when you're in the final game, how many teams get defeated? So here, this one, you write it in the original form. So it would be 32 over 64. This is the one that you simplify, just to kind of see it get smaller. What? So this, for these parts, you're just writing eliminated. So for this first round, when you start with 64 teams, how many were eliminated in the first time? So you put 32 here, and then this round, how many get eliminated? And so then you're going to go all the way down. This is where you're going to put a fraction, so you'll put 32 over 64, and then reduce. Yep, and then reduce it here. Exactly right. What is this? So here, you're just writing, so this is right number of teams down here. So you would just write 32, 16 down here. This is number of teams eliminated as a fraction. So this is where you're going to put 32 over 64 and reduce the fraction. And then here is where the percent's going to be, and for this one, you're doing half, so we will raise your hand again when you get there for some. Yes, as long as you know. So you're reducing the fraction here, so put all of these in the simplest form. So here, that would be 1/2. So here, you should have, all of these should be out of 64.
So everybody look at your second column really quick because I think it's a common question. It should be your denominator for all of your fractions in the second form should be 64 because it's asking out of the total amount. So in the first round there's 32 out of 64. The next round 16 of the original 64. So go ahead and look at all of your fractions and make sure that you're doing the denominator all out of 64 because it asks for the total number, not just the amount of teams in that round.
This one is also supposed to be 32 over 64, 16 over 64. This is the round, this is the one. And so, because then you're going to end up here. This would be, yes, the ending fraction. So this is 2, 4. It's going to end up being the same as those splits. Okay.
calling out and talking to your neighbors or raising your hand, it's okay to have some questions. Some of this is new. So the decimal was the original for this class. And we talked about how it's just sliding 2 over. So originally you got 0.25. 1.25. 12.5%. 12.5%. Okay, everybody look up here again, because we are having the same question from what we talked about in the beginning, which is okay. Okay, so if my fraction is 1/16, I will take my calculator to find the percent and do 1 divided by 16. This calculator. 1 divided by 16, which is going to give me the decimal 0.625, and then I'm going to times that, multiply it by 100, times 100 is going to give me 6.25%, and that is going to be what I put in my percent. So that is what you're going to do in your second to last column. Meredith, did you have a question for everybody? Or me just come? So the decimal is going to be this. So 1 divided by 4. Times 100, so it would be essentially like dividing it back here. Without giving you the difference. So that's why that is this one. Yes. Good job. Okay, so you're just simplifying these fractions. So what would be the simplest form of 1? 8. So you're simplifying this. What is the simplest version of 1 or 32 over 64? Yep, just like that. So you were doing it exactly like the first time. No, that was just scrap paper if you wanted to, if you needed room to work out some of your problems. didn't need that workspace, then there's nothing that you have to write on here. That was just some provided workspace, and you just go on to these. Continuing, if this is the pattern you saw, and it was, you were going up instead of down, how would you put it there? So what is the sum of all of your decimals? What does it mean to find the sum? So if you added them all up, what would it be? It's wanting to know if it equals 100, like 100% or one whole. You should be adding up and see what you find. Your bracket got even bigger and we went out another one. How many teams would there have to be to funnel it in? Yeah. Can you fathom that if we tried to do a bracket starting with it would be a lot. such a great job at staying at level 1. Please continue that. So if you, then it would have to be, because if you added 66, would there be enough teams to play each other and a whole another round if everybody was going to play again? So you would have to keep extending your bracket out. I wouldn't want to fill that bracket out, but that's how it would have to work. Is that your sense? Yep. So instead of dividing it by 2 like we have been, it's going the opposite direction. Just asking you to look
know that your pattern is going up, or is going down by halves. If instead you were going up, what would you have to do to continue on your pattern? 66.
Okay, we only have a couple more minutes before the music's gonna go off. It went right now. The one thing I just want to talk about is if it equaled on the backside when it asked, hold on, stay seated, when it asked if it equaled up to a whole or to 100%, did it? No. Why? Because one team never got eliminated. So you all can turn this into the basket.